You are listening to the Nyx Archive, the official Relic RPG actual play podcast. You can play Relic absolutely free right now by going to relicrpg.com. And welcome back to the Nyx Archive. We are going to pick right back up where we left off. The ladies had just found a gruesome murder hidden in the luxury suites portion of the long hall. I am C.T. Corrigan, your game master and creator of Relic. I am today joined by the lovely Miss Maddie Hammond.
Hello, I'm Maddie, playing Farah.
And Marissa Montero.
I'm here as the voice of Skink.
Marissa Montero, who, of course, I have learned how to say her last name properly after knowing her for over a decade and realizing on camera that I had never actually said it out loud before.
That's a true friend. When you're like first name only for like
Marissa.
10 years, that's a real friend.
Yeah. Woo! I'm a good friend. With that heinous violation, we are going to jump straight back into the game. You two have just come across a murder scene. The poor young loudmouth Chester with his throat slashed, blood splattered across the room down the hall from the room you are renting at the Long Hall. His sister, who I don't believe you've actually caught her name yet, but you know it is his sister, having just discovered him and collapsing into a fit in the hallway, crying and screaming and tensing as Farah runs into the room with weapons drawn, but quickly realizing that no, you couldn't have been in the room murdering him if you were coming from behind her. Their elven companion having just run over to check the body, but it is immediately obvious to you, Farah, that Chester is in fact very dead, and we'll pick it up there. Farah, what do you do?
I would like to look around to see if there's any threat still lurking.
Okay, so you're investigating the room. That'll be a precision check for me. 1d12 plus your precision score.
That is a 10.
10, pretty solid. We, of course, are a D12-based role-playing game system. We do use the entire spread of polyhedral dice, but 12 is our base one, so the scale is a little bit different if you're used to some other systems. 10 is a solid score, especially at level 1. So what you find is, no, this room is pretty sparse. There's actually not even enough beds in here for, like, all of them. So I'll tell you what you see. You walk in, Chester is slain on one cot, kind of set up against the outermost wall, kind of at the back of the room away from the hallway. There is another cot off to one side. It's clearly been slept in, but no one in it. You can easily see underneath it. And beneath both cots are stuffed a couple of large duffel bags, similar to the ones you were helping the sister and the elf bring up the stairs as they returned from their expedition.
Okay. Can I tell, can I discern how he was maimed? Not maimed.
I think you would have to get closer and make some checks for it.
Can I do that? I would like to move towards the body.
Yeah. Go. Meanwhile, Skink, are you doing anything? You were down the hall as this unfolded very quickly.
Yeah, I think I had been holding the door for them to get all the duffel bags in. So with all this commotion, I've let the door close. We're all inside.
Right.
And Skink is sort of sidling up, like getting pretty close, still kind of watching, because were there still some duffel bags in the hallway? Like they hadn't finished moving them in? Because they had just started to
they had kind of done that thing. You guys had all entered the building, so you're like in the hotel hallway, right?
Yeah.
They had taken their luggage down to the front of their door. Yeah. And then she opened the door, and then this all popped off.
Yeah. So I think Skink is aware that something very valuable is in the bags. Mm-hmm. So Skink doesn't want to let go of, of a foothold on the duffel bags while this terrible scene unravels.
So we'll say Farah has rushed into the room.
And I'm at the doorway.
Yeah, Skink is at the doorway. The sister is at the doorway as well. She's obviously very fixated on the body.
And
Farah,
she just stood there at the door while Farah went up to the body?
she kind of
Yikes.
like screamed and collapsed. Like she like reeled backwards and probably tripped over the duffel bags, as a matter of fact. The elf had run inside to check Chester. So Farah, you're moving
the elf
up.
is inside.
Yeah, so you're moving up next to him, Farah. Do you want to go ahead and make a knowledge check for like a medical situation?
Yes, I would like to do that. That is a 7.
7 on knowledge. His throat's been cut. It looks like with, pretty deep, very obviously fatal wound. But you can't really discern with a 7 too much more about like specific implements, number of wounds, anything like that. It's just like, nope, that's a fatal wound right there.
But I can rule out animal attack, maybe.
Yeah, well, so I don't know if you can dial in any specific kind of attack, but you can make intuitive leaps, certainly. What I think is immediately obvious, no check required, just based on the blood pattern, is he died in bed. There wasn't like a broader struggle here.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to decide what Farah would do. She would ask if, I think she would immediately jump to like, okay, this was probably a robbery. Because he was talking about having so many flakes, right? So I think she would say to the elf, is there anything missing? Because this was probably like an attack of opportunity to steal from you all. Because he was pretty loud about what you guys have gotten.
He's kind of like, his hands are covered in blood now. He's like stepping back from his slain friend, and he's kind of looks at you, and he's like very clearly in like an adrenaline state, and kind of like coming to grips with like there's no immediate action to take right now, and like kind of having that like jitter.
Sure.
He looks at you, and Cassie, how many bags do we? Cassie's not. And you see him kind of like, oh, it's me, like it's on me right now, like
right.
Just sort of like assuming that mental position, and he kind of, all the bags are here. I'm not gonna tear them open and like weigh them and check everything that's in here, but everything seems to be here. All of his belongings, or the belongings that I most easily see right now, are all in the room. We need help. We need to get, and then Skink, you clock footsteps. So there's an interior staircase coming from like down the hall that goes down into the common room. You clock a bunch of footsteps running up, and I think pretty quickly.
And I think my immediate reaction is to, like, I'm going to draw my dagger, because I have, like, a little dagger in my bag. And I just shout before I see anyone coming, "Don't come any closer!"
It's me! And you hear Roland's voice.
Okay.
Roland, are you alone?
A couple lads, locals from the bar downstairs. We heard screaming. What's happened?
Leave the lads downstairs. Roland, come up.
All right.
At this point, Farah's gonna just exit the room. Notably, weirdly calm despite the amount of blood. I just need everybody to know that.
You've gained a blood token being in this room, by the way.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. They only last. Only last a few minutes, so keep that in mind. But
it says a minute, so
yeah. So in this scene, you've definitely got one just from being in this room. Roland comes down the hall, big pot-bellied orcish bartender, stains on his apron, little stressed, but you realize now, Skink, I think you've always seen him kind of behind the bar working things. Roland's fucking huge. Like, Roland is a big, tall guy. Mechanically, he's a large creature. So 2 sizes bigger than you on the creature chart. And he kind of like delicately comes down the hall as best he can, and Cassie,
Skink's like got the knife by her side. She didn't let go of it, but it's like in her hand, and goes, "Roland, there's been a murder."
Right. And you see him put it together and just kind of see Cassie crying, and well, he says her name. He's Cassie. It's Chester, isn't it?
And then Skink sort of like steps back and gestures towards the room.
Farah's gonna like put a hand up and be like, "It is bloody. I just want you to be aware."
Roland, I think he kind of leans. He's trying to like lean past you, but physically he's like looming over you just from the size discrepancy, and he kind of like puts like a knowing hand, just kind of pats your shoulder very briefly. It's just like, wasn't always a barkeeper, miss. Looks in. All right, everybody out of the room, please. We're going to. There's only you two groups renting up here right now. If you two would be okay confining yourselves either to your room or staying downstairs. And he turns and he calls back down the way he came. He goes, "Georgie, get the lawman. There's been a slaying. Yeah, get Estelle. Okay." And he goes, "Cassie, I can put you and your companions in a different room for now while we wait, but we shouldn't be in the room right now. Is there anything? There's no current." He's looking to you two. He's like, "There's no current threat that we know of, right?"
Not that we know.
Not that we saw.
All right. I'm going to everyone. He's kind of like herding people away from the scene a little bit, and he signals to one of the other people down the stairs to kind of like not let anyone come up. You see, he goes to the door you guys had entered through and sort of dislodges like a big bar, and bars the door from the inside so no one can come in from the outside that way. He goes, "Okay. Should be a few minutes." And I think he's going to stop and talk.
A few minutes doing what?
We're going to wait for the militia to come and take over here, because I don't really want to run. There's been a murder. Obviously, that means someone's killed the young man. I don't really want. And I think you're clocking that like this is a very different side of Roland that what you've seen before. Like Roland was very, whatever, kind of checked out, sort of like retired vibes.
Yeah.
This is Roland sort of in the heat of things. And he explains, like, we're basically going to wait for someone in authority to show up and handle this, because I don't want to be the one handling this. And he kind of gently but firmly, like, scoops Cassie up and starts, like, herding her down the hall, and the elf takes over. So what are you two doing in this moment? He said you can stay in your room if you would want.
All right.
I want to ask Roland a question if I can catch him after he's finished.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So what he's doing is kind of putting them in the room closest to the stairs at the end of the hall.
So I'm going to follow behind him, I think, just to... Okay. Because I want to have a conversation. Just a little bit.
Yeah. And you see Pip kind of just, like, poking out of your hood and just... Blood, mother. Much blood. Yeah, he just... Miss Farah, what... Sorry you had to see that.
Quite all right. Blood doesn't really bother me. Did you see anybody come up on this side? Up to this room? Or up to these rooms, I guess.
No, their group's been the only ones besides you coming in and out of here, but there is the exterior door, so they wouldn't have had to come through. If they knew to come through there, they wouldn't have had to. And I think between you and I tried to discourage Chester from running his mouth, but I think you got a pretty good picture of how that went for the past day or so. I had just checked on him about 2 hours ago, as Cassie had asked me to bring him up some food while he was recovering.
Was he awake?
He was sleepy, pretty drunk. I left some stew in there. But alive.
Yeah. So Skink is now thinking that why wait for the authorities? So Skink is going to ask Roland, we could ask Chester himself if he remembers anything happening.
Kind of... you see the elf kind of like prick up a little bit. Cassie, I don't think... Hold on.
Does she clock it?
Cassie did not clock that. The elf's passive, I think, would do it regardless. Even if you guys are like out in the hall, we'll say you're in the hallway, they're in the room. Roland kind of pulls you to the side. He goes, "What are you suggesting?"
I have the ability to ask the dead questions, and they will answer me. We could ask Chester what happened and see if that gives us any clue. If he was awake. I mean, if he were asleep when it happened, then we might not learn anything. But if he was awake, then he might be able to tell us something.
I see. And I think you see in this moment Roland kind of like actively reassessing his opinion of Skink. Just being like, thought you were just a little chaos goblin. Might still be more going on here. Roger that. He goes, "Miss Skink, I'm not going to fight you on this. Frankly, I don't want to be any more involved than being the proprietor here and taking care of my customers. I would suggest you make that known to Miss Estelle when she gets here.
Miss Estelle?
She's the sheriff, as it were, in Osk. Practical woman, not one to ignore an advantage, and the only reason I say that is so there are multiple people there to witness any answers. Because if you two don't plan on staying here, don't want to get bogged down in this situation, and you're the only ones who have heard the answers that you might get, she's not going to want you leaving. You understand? Okay. So that's my piece. Otherwise, I'm not calling the shots here. I'm just making sure we can hand off. No big deal.
Skink also then looks at Farah, and as you know, my conscience in this matter. Farah, should we ask his sister if there's anything she needs to know from him? Or do we only want to ask questions that the authorities care about?
My concern with asking her that question is that people, especially right after an incident like this, are probably still thinking of their attachment, and it might be hard for her to speak to him again.
I think that's fair. Maybe
we could let Estelle take the lead on that. Okay. She might have more experience with people going through that.
Okay.
Yeah. Farah, in this moment, you realize that Pip is no longer on your shoulder.
Okay.
And then you hear Pip flies by you and lands kind of at the entrance to the room where Cassie and the elf are in. And sort of hops over towards Cassie, who is like hunkered on the ground and crying, and drops a little. You see this like glowing mote of like, it almost looks like ice. And this little thing just kind of clatters to the ground. And he kind of nudges it towards her. He kind of hops back, and he flies back down the hall. And now you see him, he goes and he lands on one of the duffel bags they've left in the hall, and he's rooting around in there for a minute. And he pulls up another one, and he flies back, and he drops another one in front of her.
Skink looks at Pip and goes, hey, and is like signaling that like Skink should get one if he's gonna start distributing.
He takes off. Rummages around for a second. Roland kind of goes, probably shouldn't do that. And it's just, you see.
I hold out like a crumb. I pull like a whole cracker out of my pocket for Pip.
Now is not the time.
Pip perches on your cloak, drops it into your pocket, takes the cracker, and like takes the cracker over to sit by Cassie.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, he's munching on it a little bit. but throwing some crumbs her way. And I think she kind of notices him, and at that moment is just pets the bird. And then Pip hops back and climbs, just kind of, he doesn't really like fly up, but he kind of hops up Farah, your cloak, and just kind of gets back into his little nest.
I'm gonna scritch Pip, of course.
Yeah, mother. A few minutes go by.
So, wait. So the elf has just left all the rest of the, like, all the duffel bags are just everywhere, and one of them is now open because of Pip, and nobody cares.
Yeah, they're all kind of lying in the hall. The elf is
All
clearly
right.
paying attention to Cassie. Roland ushered you guys away from that direction. Although the DM will point out that if you were to go back to your room for any reason, you would step over their luggage.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like one of us would have put all the bags in one room instead of just leaving them in the hallway.
I was gonna say, since Skink took one,
And is
Farah,
satisfied.
to make it even, because she knew it was just about getting one, is gonna put all of the bags in the room that they are currently in.
Oh, into the room that they're staying in?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you start bringing stuff down, and Roland kind of clocks what you're doing. Right. Yeah, shouldn't leave those. And he kind of helps bring them over. And Roland definitely saw Pip take one, and you can see him kind of doing the calculus of just like, I'm not going to pile on to this situation right now. That's just another layer I don't really want to be in. So he puts them in there, and the elf kind of nods to you, Farah, and as I'm kind of holds his hand out. I'm Prin, by the way. Prin.
Bryn, nice to meet you. I'm Farah. I'm sorry for these unfortunate circumstances in which we meet.
Yeah, this is... You heard Cassie. It's Cassie, and if you could do me a favor, actually, if you see our centaur companion, his name's Orlo, tell him what's happened and send him up to us, if you would. Or I can meet him outside. He doesn't like the stairs very much, but...
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah,
Centaur joke.
well, it's like he can do it, but he gets up here and like he barely fits in the room, and like what's he gonna do? So he usually.
Do you want someone to stay with Cassie while you go talk to him?
If he comes back, we'll figure it out then. They've been. I'm the newest member of this group. They've been close for a long time. They might want to talk. I don't. We'll figure it out. But I appreciate that. As you guys are talking, I think you hear, whoever's out in the hall would hear people coming in downstairs, like a larger group all at once, and like a commanding, like older woman's voice, just, all right, where am I going? Okay, yes, good. And strong footsteps, like booted, clanking footsteps coming up the staircase. Up here, Estelle. Roland, good to see you again. What do we got this time? And you see coming up the stairs is a woman wearing a thick, all like dyed jet black, thick fur-lined, cowled cloak. Draped over, there is a gleaming breastplate underneath. So you can see it kind of in flashes as the cloak moves around her, but everything she's wearing is lined with this thick, like puffy furred, dark black, jet black lining, knee-high boots, same style. Like her whole ensemble is clearly like custom tailored to match, unlike a lot of people who like, bits of armor here and there, kind of acquire things as they go. She's got an embroidered little crest of what looks like kind of like a runic stylized snowflake etched in white on the cloak. And there is a matching one you can see in glimpses on the armor, like embossed beneath. She's not wearing a helmet of any kind, but you do see that she has got kind of like a black fuzzy cap that goes with everything that she's like taken off and kind of tucked under. Long dark hair, some streaks of like gray and silver shot through. Carrying a what you would see as a warhammer underneath. Kind of slung, attached to her hip. So this like one-handed, like 5-pound like spiked hammer. Steps up. Everybody, my name is Estelle Quick. I am the one amounts to law in Osk, me and my troop. I'm told there's been a killing. Who was it? And Roland kind of, Estelle, it's these two, and he points to you two. Were staying here as well. They were witnesses after the fact. They helped kind of secure the scene. These two over here, and Cassie and the elf, came back to find her brother slain in the room. He'd been injured on an expedition yesterday. Kind of gives her the overall scenario. Right. Okay, well, good. No one else staying up here right now? You two? And the bird? Good to know. Roland, I will be happy to, well, I would appreciate it if you two didn't stay here tonight while I look into this. I will be happy to contribute, she hands you, whoever's closer, we'll say Farah, 5 silver coins. Use that to get a room at one of the other taverns in town. There are quite a few. If you're looking and can't find a place, the Temple of the Thaw always has rooms open. It's not much, it's not luxury, but I can't have you tramping around a crime scene.
Skink pipes up. Very well, but before we leave, I wish to offer you my services as one who is capable of speaking to the dead.
You're a mage.
I'm a necromancer.
You see, eyebrows kind of shoot up a little bit, but not like, oh my god. Interesting. Haven't had the pleasure of one of your practitioners, colleagues, I'm not sure what to call it, come through Osk, to my knowledge, in some time. Are you able, what would you be able to provide in this situation?
An interrogation of sorts. We would not be bringing the poor boy back to life, but we would be able to ask him a series of 3 questions.
How long would you need to prepare?
As Skink is like, oh, this won't take anything at all. I don't know if that's true, but
Yeah.
from what I have here on Interrogate the Dead, it doesn't say how much time
it's a quick spell,
it takes. Like, I feel like this is one of those things where as long as I have the proper runes or the proper talismans, I'm just gonna do it.
She goes, excellent. Pierre, bring up paper, notepad. And she, calls up one of her assistants. You see this young man kind of dressed similarly, not nearly as well, just a black cloak and some basic kind of chainmail underneath, but with that same symbol. Mm-hmm. Yes. Right and then 3 questions, you said?
Yes, it is probably best for us to decide in advance what the questions are to avoid any sort of misunderstandings during the interrogation.
I think that's an excellent point. Let's discuss this away from the bereaved, if we might. I've encountered necromancers in my travel before, but some people, I'm sure you understand, don't.
Yeah, and I think they would go in and just shut the door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see her kind of surveying the room. It's terribly unfortunate. As she goes over, and as you guys are kind of brainstorming questions, and I'll let you, if you have suggestions, she's open to them. She can suggest a couple herself. It's kind of what she communicates. But she is looking around the room as you guys talk, and you see she pulls the duffel bags out from underneath, and just is kind of doing a quick inventory of what's in them, and you see several of them are just traveler's packs, similar things to what you would carry, rations, cloaks, bedrolls, that kind of things. Camping supplies, a few more specialized, tents made for camping out in the tundra and making a shelter in the snow and ice and picks and that kind of thing. But most of the bags in the room are actually crammed full of those little glowing flecks that Pip secured. Ranging in size from the size of a pea up to stuff that's closer to almost like an orange or a grapefruit sized. She goes, well, I would say that goes to motive. There's probably a few thousand gold worth of decent-sized flakes in here. You said there weren't any missing?
The elf said there weren't any missing, but it wouldn't hurt to have him check further. He just glanced.
Okay, yeah, I will speak to him about that for certainly. There doesn't appear... Forgive me, I want to kind of get a lay for the land before we jump into the necromancy.
Of course.
Doesn't appear that there was much of a struggle. Seems they took the poor young man in his sleep. Injured. Wouldn't have been able to put up much of a fight, and she kind of points like what appears to be Chester's pack and weapons are like across the room by the door. She's like, didn't really have a chance, did he? I don't quite get it. I had heard rumors that a group staying here across town, I had heard the rumors the group staying here had a good haul of flakes. Again, several thousand gold worth, just from a quick glance of what's here. So either they had more than someone could carry or get away with carrying, and they had to leave the rest here, which doesn't sound like was the case. Or that's not what they were looking for.
He did talk about being commissioned to find a scroll by an elf who I don't think staying here, but was downstairs earlier.
Lady Sive.
I would assume so if you know of this.
Interesting. Okay, that's something to look into.
If it helps, I would check with his sister, but I don't think that they found it from what I remember.
Curiouser and curiouser, isn't it? I have a notion of what questions to ask. I've not done this particular spellcraft before, so I am open to ideas if you have any. I believe you'll have to ask the questions, miss.
I will have to ask the questions. I also generally like to ask the dead what is the last thing they remember before crossing over, to see if anything happened before he passed off to sleep. If he was killed in his sleep, then most of his memories should be pleasant. But if there's something there, I'll ask him what his last memory is.
I think that's a good place to start, in fact. These were... The fact that we're staying here, and she kind of confers with her companion for a moment. He goes, these people weren't from here, not Osk natives, so I doubt it was a personal attack, unless they've truly managed to anger somebody in their short time here. All right. So let's say the last thing they remember. Mm-hmm. That makes sense to me. That could give us some leads if it's fruitful. If he knew his attackers.
Okay.
Is that going to waste a question? Should we ask him to describe his attackers?
I will say, we were at a general store when his other members of his party that are staying here were coming back from going out. So we can confirm, and we came in right after them. So we can confirm that it wasn't anyone that was in that party. We know who was there.
So possibly a stranger. Likely a stranger.
Likely a stranger.
Maybe.
Unless there's another person here that they've been working with that we're not aware of.
Possibly. Maybe better to ask for a description. Then, if he knew him or not, we can at least have something to work with. Okay.
So we'll ask if what he remembers. If he remembers being attacked, hopefully he will be able to describe. And then...
I don't know.
What were they looking for? If he can remember that at all, or if
maybe. Oh, do we want to ask what the party went out for at night?
No, I think. I mean, didn't they come back with those packs of flakes? I feel like we know that.
Mm-hmm.
We can also ask the living that.
Yeah.
The living can answer that. Yeah.
Yeah, would he
What
know
are
anything
things
they
that-
wouldn't?
What are things that only Chester would know?
I wonder if he would have gleaned any information about what the killer was looking for.
She kind of nods.
Yeah.
I think that's a good notion. Okay. Last
All
thing he
right.
remembers. Descriptions, if any.
Yeah.
And then what they were looking for, if he knows.
If he knows. He might not know. Just because we get to ask him the questions does not mean he will know.
Okay.
True.
Hey, that's more than we usually get in a,
We
in a dead
also
body.
only get 3. So
3.
if it turns out he doesn't remember anything, is there an alternative line of questions that we would like to ask?
We could come up with something, but if I know
Perhaps
anything...
only on the fly.
If one of... I leave it to you. If one of his answers takes us in a very different direction than we expect, I trust your judgment. Well, I'll be honest, I don't trust you, but you're the one casting the spell.
Very well.
Use your best judgment if there's something better we could learn, you think, in the moment. I don't think, even if he doesn't know the answers, I don't think, from what I understand of this sort of magic, it's still going to cost us a question.
Yeah, I think that's
So,
fair.
I think it's important to note right here for our audio listeners that Farah and Skink not even remotely fazed by the not trusted comment.
Yeah.
yeah, you two were both. You were both like,
We're
yeah.
like,
We just
that
nod.
tracks."
You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that
Of course
tracks.
not. Why would you? Look at us.
Like, I recognize a chaos goblin party when I see one.
All right. So Skink is like, all right, well, without further ado, and pulls back their sleeve, because I think this is one of the spells that Skink does like all the time. So this is one that Skink just like got tattooed onto her arm for, easy reference. So just like double checks the runes and then just like traces the shapes of some runes over Chester's body and then like does some like weird vocal warm up like and then proceeds to ask Chester.
Darling Chester, what is the last thing that you remember?
You see Chester lying there, stone dead, eyes wide open, throat gashed, staring at the ceiling. Just kind of like arches his back and kind of like almost does like a bridge, like, but just, his elbows and shoulder blades are pinched back, so he's like in this really odd, awkward position, and his head, this is gross, his head just kind of like lolls limply off to one side.
Yeah.
And you, Skink, see from biomechanically he can't talk. You can't talk with your throat ripped open like that. The magic is kind of like forming a very crude version of his vocal system that is allowing him to speak and answer these questions. So it's distorted but intelligible, and he's
Met in the night, held down, steal questions.
That's one.
Held down in the night. Steal questions.
Held down in the night, steal questions.
And to be clear, for just because voice acting is hard,
Yeah.
Steel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was assuming he was describing like the taste of steel like on his throat or something.
That's a good assumption.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I ask,
Chester, darling Chester, did you see the steel?
Awoke. Blade at neck. 2 figures. thin, tall, dark.
All right.
Okay, so we got yeah,
two tall, dark figures.
pale,
Pale.
pale
and
thin.
dark. Pale,
Yeah.
thin, dark.
Okay.
Okay.
And then Skink like looks over at Estelle quick to see if like this is all going well.
She kind of just like, nods. Just,
Mm-hmm.
you see her kind of being like, oh, this is uncomfortable, but useful. And
Remind
Pierre looks like he's about to pass out. He's like 16, he's like a squire or something, but he's
Yeah.
just diligently taking notes. Like,
Farah's like leaning on the door frame, just watching all this, but she does say, "Excuse me, wait, what was our third question?"
And then Skink can't remember, but Skink has a new question that Skink wants to ask anyway.
I want to ask if they had glowing eyes.
Oh!
Yes.
I
Farah
was
is
gonna-
remembering encountering an individual with glowing eyes who was looking for his friend who also had glowing eyes, who he described as tall and good looking.
so I will say Brunskool did not have glowing eyes.
Oh, I thought
but
he did.
No, but he was clocked in a disguise.
Right.
So I will say you guys have done this spell before. You've traveled together for many years. Skink, you know the spell ends when you next ask a question,
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Farah, you would know that as long as Skink holds, you
Yeah.
could go over and say something to her if you wanted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As
So
long as
I
it's,
would-
yeah. As long as
I
it's a
would-
statement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would go over and I would say this to Estelle too, and I would like have my hand up in like reference to Skink pausing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am aware of a tall individual who is missing, according to the friend that we ran into who was looking for him. And he seemed kind of suspicious, the guy that we talked to, and I don't know about his friend if he's missing. One of the characteristics was that he had glowing eyes. Do you think it would be, is there any other question that would be better, that would get us more information, or should we ask a more direct question like that?
We had Estelle responds. She kind of like is looking to you and realizing like, oh, I can talk. It's not going to mess it up. But
Yeah,
you can see
yeah.
she's still trying to be like, I don't know if I can ask a question in this room right now, so I'm going to try not to.
Yeah.
And you guys know that it's Skink. Skink has to ask a question, and that ends the spell. But
Yeah.
Estelle kind of looks to you two and says, we had thought to ask, just being very careful with her words, what they were looking for.
Oh, that's still better, I think. Okay.
Skink also
Don't
looks
you?
over and says, the other possible question is what the questioners were asking.
That is technically a statement.
Because he said...
I think that gets I think that
he
gets at the
said
same
they-
thing.
He said they asked questions.
Oh, that's true. Estelle, I'll leave it up to you. I think what they were looking for, or what questions they had, either one.
Are probably gonna be the same answer.
Similar,
Probably.
but
Similar,
could
but...
we know they were asking questions.
Mm-hmm,
Knowing what they were after is a huge component of this.
mm-hmm.
I think if we know what they were looking for, I could deduce more about who they might have been. Go for that. Ask what they were asking him.
Okay. So Skink leans back over him.
Chester, darling Chester. What were they looking for?
Ask about the job for Miss Scythe. Where she sent us map.
And Chester kind of just crumples and deflates. And there is a little side effect to this magic skink that I don't know if you would have mentioned beforehand, but as he collapses back down, the body is markedly decayed by the power of this magic here. Mechanically speaking, a corpse cannot be affected by this spell more than once ever, from any source. In roleplay world, what that means is the corpse kind of pulls a Raiders of the Lost Ark a little bit and just sort of decays pretty quickly. Just still like a fresh corpse, but maybe not quite as fresh and a little more damaged, worse for the wear.
Yep. Looks pretty bad, too.
Pierre is audibly sick behind you. Lady Estelle, a little more appraising, kind of looks to you and goes, that was productive.
Skink does like a little bow.
Miss Skink, was it? Farah? I appreciate your assistance in this matter. Let's maybe upgrade your stay a little bit. And she hands over a gold coin and on top of things instead. And goes, on me.
And Skink
Thank
goes,
you.
at
For the
your
inconvenience.
service.
Yeah.
Skink
you know.
loves like a good job recommendation. Like just knows like I did good. At some point, if they ever need me, like that's my card right there.
As she holds out the coin, Pip pops down, grabs the coin, and disappears back into Farah's hood.
We're not worried about it.
You have a book. You have a bookkeeper. I appreciate that. That was productive. How? First of all, if you are sticking around Osk and your services are for hire, I wish this was less frequent than it is, but I could make use of it. Okay, so this woman. Did he mention a name? Miss Sive?
Miss Sive.
Is that what he
And
said?
then-
Yeah, that's the elf downstairs. I know her.
It is the elf downstairs.
Okay, all right. Some elements are coming together. I think I need to go speak with her. You two have been terribly helpful in your services today. When Pierre's done vomiting in the hallway, I am going to ask you to describe the events that you witnessed as you came in to him for the report. I am going to go speak with the grieving down the hall, but I am going to ask you to exit this room and not... If there's anything you need to get from your lodgings at this moment before you leave, let's do that right now. Otherwise, I'm going to have to exit this hallway with you, and we're not going to be permitting you back up here, so let's go ahead and take care of that now, and I'm going to close this room. And she kind of escorts everyone out.
I would say that Pharaoh does not have anything really in the room. Most of what she has is on her. Like she has a pack on her. I don't think she would leave much.
Skink's like, my favorite toothpaste is in there. Let me go get it. And
Okay.
like goes back to like check the toiletries one more time.
Right,
Is there a little
right.
soap that I can take?
Yeah, make sure you get your phone charger. Like,
Yeah. Like Skink was maybe like a little bit freer with leaving like doodads in the room, stuff that wasn't like terribly important, but like just a nice convenience. And is also curious to just double check to see like, did anyone mess with our room? If like somebody killed a guy up here, did they go in our room at all? And like,
as you return
goes
to
in
your
to
room,
take a look. Yeah.
go ahead and make a precision roll for me.
Precision roll.
It's actually
We're gonna
really
say,
smart.
I'll say, sometimes I like to just sort of see how you roll and then kind of figure out how things go, but this time I'm gonna say you're looking for a 12 or higher.
All right, so it's going to be a d12 plus 2 for precision, and it is a 13, 11 plus 2.
13, okay. On a 13, you are confident no one has been in your room since last you two were.
Great. I collect my hotel toiletries, and I am out.
There are not much.
It is not much, but Skink
really,
likes
it's
to have it.
I think it's like the Pip's favorite rocks and pebbles that he's picked up since you've been in town were like stashed in there, and like a chicken bone that wound up there for some reason, and like it's that kind of stuff.
Can't leave your bones behind. You got to take all your little bones with you.
Bones
left
bones.
behind.
Okay. So you
and
guys...
I feel like they would like flounce downstairs, like, "Oh my god, we get to go pick out a new expensive room. Which place do you want to look for?"
Farrah's pretty unfazed. She's happy about the gold. So, and I don't know. The guy who said he'd pay us 3 platinum to find his friend is. I think they're staying at the Midwinter Sun. We can always check that one.
Oh, hell yeah. Let's go.
As you guys come down the stairs, you do see that elven woman across the room. At the same table she was yesterday. Definitely watching you.
We're not super was in tune with what we look like maybe to other people. Or maybe we are, but we aren't. We just don't care. I don't know. But I like hold my hand up to like halt, like a halt Skink at her chest.
Yeah, because I think Skink sees the elf looking at them and is just staring right back. Just like full eye contact, full eye contact, like I see you.
She just kind of arches an eyebrow and gestures you over.
I don't know. Farrah's a little obstinate.
Yeah, I'm seeing this unfold as like a cartoon thing where like Farrah very carefully has like an arm out that is like both blocking and holding Skink at the same time, as like Skink and the elf are locked eyes the whole time, but you just walk us both down the stairs and out the door like a cartoon.
So you guys like booking it for the door?
Yeah, it's like a weird slow motion walk all the way. That's what I'm imagining.
Yes, and then when we get outside, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna say, should we go back in and talk to her? I don't like that she gestured for us to come over because that's annoying to me. But
rude, mother, rude.
We just got paid by that nice martial law lady, and I just want to do what she said, so I think we should go.
She also sent her last group on a quest where someone died because of it. So I am tempted because I have a feeling it would be lucrative and also something interesting, but I don't know.
Skink's gonna say, like, she's gonna be there every day. We can come back tomorrow and talk to her.
I like it. Also, it just means that I get to ignore her come hither. So let's go to Midwinter Sun.
And then they like flounce off thinking like, haha, she can't tell us what to do. She can't tell us what to do.
As our diminutive dungeon delvers flounce to the Midwinter Sun.
Like away from someone who we absolutely believe is a murderer.
I would say who is absolutely a plot hook from the GM. You're just like, no.
All of my fellow GMs pour one out for me. You know exactly how I'm feeling.
We're going to the Midwinter Sun.
You head
they like hold hands and skip through the snow.
You head
as
to the
best
Midwinter
we can. I
Sun.
sink into it.
Dunk, 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 dunk. Hey, it's your friendly neighborhood game master CD Corrigan here. This episode of the Nyx Archive is brought to you by me. As you've probably noticed, the Nyx Archive is running off the Relict RPG tabletop role-playing game system, which I created. Relict is absolutely free. It does not require a subscription, a paywall, an account, a battle pass, a microtransaction, none of that kind of stuff, because I am just not about it. You can try it for yourself with your friends at relictrpg.com. Now, having said that, being free to play does not mean that it is free to make or maintain, and the same goes for the Nyx archive. If you would like to help cover the costs of microphones, software, equipment, time and energy, and hopefully taking some of my workload off to pay artists and editors and other contributors, you can check out the ways to support Relict on the website there. We have donation pages, we have a Patreon, we have a number of things. We're selling adventures and some goodies and accessories this year. And the Nyx archive itself does have a dedicated Patreon where you can access early episodes, behind-the-scenes content, and an after show. We'll expand what's offered there based on kind of as the community grows, what people are most interested in seeing, maybe art, maybe some special edition or some merch or whatever. You tell us, we'll figure it out. But in the meantime, if you would like to help us keep this thing rolling and get off the ground here, that is a great way to do it. Find the links to all of that, well, depending on what app you're on, exactly where you'd expect to find such things. Now, let's get back to the show. So you two scamper off into the permanently dark, snowy streets of Osk towards the midwinter sun. I'm going to, just for setting the scene, you guys had a nice little trek out into the wilderness after dinner. You came back, you helped work on a murder case. It's probably getting towards midnight right now. It is cold as shit outside. Cold as hell outside. The streets are pretty clear at this point. Like, yes, a lot of people kind of keep weird hours in Osk, but also now it's dark and cold and late. So not nearly as many people out on the town right now, and the wind and snow have not abated in the slightest. It is cold and dark and snowy outside, but you have been around town for a couple of days. It's not a huge town. You know where the midwinter sun is. You approach a large building, and one thing you've seen in Osk is a lot of these buildings are made out of kind of a combination of like quarried stone and heavy timber construction, plastered thick walls trying to keep as much heat in as possible. Some of the older buildings in town, a lot of this looks like newer construction, as weird as that is. So like newer timbers, not as weathered, mostly plaster, a lot of wood, shingles, that kind of thing. The Midwinter Sun is one of the older buildings in Osk. It is mostly stone, including chunks of much larger, kind of like a blue streaked stone that you see in a lot of the older buildings in town, not nearly as prevalent in the smaller or newer constructions. These big, kind of monolithic, almost, not quite like cobalt blue, but kind of bordering on that range of like it's streaked through with different minerals and things. So it gives it this very like almost regal appearance, like exotic marbles and stuff, even though it's not marble, it's more of a granite or something like that. Midwinter Sun is a larger building. Unlike the Long Hall, it is built as kind of like a rotunda, like it is a circular, semicircular building with a sort of a domed roof at the top, still out of tile, but you do see there is sort of like a raised portion as you approach it in the center of it with like a steady stream of smoke coming out of it. As you enter this building, I don't think you would have been here before unless you had any particular reason to go hopping between the different taverns and hotels, inns rather. As you enter this building, it is warm. Similar to the Long Hall, they've got a number of like smaller hearths around the perimeter blazing at all times. In the center, there is a large fire pit, kind of this like elegantly decorated like stone, almost like a giant, what's the word?
Bonfire?
Brazier? Bonfire?
Oh.
Yeah. I almost said Bezier. That's not right. There's this large like fire pit decorated with stone kind of carvings around the perimeter. Everything about this building is just a little bit older and more refined and kind of more original to like the older town before this gold rush boom, whatever's going on right now. That smoke is funneled out through that central stack at the top, which you see is kind of like partially opened, but obviously all the heat is coming out of there so that the cold's not really getting in as long as the fire is going. There is a central like bar island kind of deal as you walk in, sort of like taking up like one sort of arc segment in this round room, and seating on a number of terraces that kind of stair-step down into the center of this room. Lots of different tables and booths and benches and seats kind of all scattered around to sort of all face this central like warm fire here. There is around the kind of second and third floors of this building. It's all one big open chamber, but around the second and third floors, you do see balconies, like a walkway going all the way around, almost like a catwalk, with individual rooms kind of fanning off of it like spokes of a wheel.
Cool.
Yeah. So you walk in, the bar is most directly in front of the main door, and there is a larger... Oh, let's see here. I'm going to look at my list of NPCs. I've got to decide what lineage to give them, because I'm trying to think of a fun one. Yeah, okay. You walk in and see a surprising sight in Osk, a larger, kind of more full-figured mare woman is standing behind the bar, covered in a lot of furs. This amphibious species that you would know. Much more common down towards the coast, Tumble Fray, the Rending Sea, the Cimarron Ocean, but has found her way here to Osk, and she kind of greets you as you walk in. Hey, welcome. Welcome in. Close the door, close the door.
Close it quickly.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
And sort of like shuffle up to the bar in like a great mood because like now we're in a fancy place and Skink loves it.
Yeah. Welcome to the Midwinter Sun. My name is Maria. How can I help you this evening? Can I get you something to drink?
Maria, we will absolutely have something to drink and we will be staying the night. So pour big.
Fantastic. Love to hear it. I've got a fine vintage red all the way up from... Chris is going to look at his map.
Ooh.
I've got a fine vintage end all the way imported in from Spring's End. If you would like that. If you're in the mood for something a little heartier, I've got a fine Point Geyer rye that's come up the bit of road a few months ago. That's really been quite popular. Sort of a richer... I'm not actually quite sure what they make it out of. More of like a rye whiskey type of beverage.
We'll take a wine and a shot.
I love that. Love to hear it. That'll be 1 silver, please.
And
she goes and starts
then
pouring.
I look at Farah like Farah's carrying the money.
To be fair, I think Pip is carrying the money.
True.
So I'm
So
gonna
it's like
reach
I
to
look
the
at
hood.
you look at Pip.
Yeah.
Yeah, little beak just pops out and goes, meh.
I'm gonna drop it.
That's, I'll make change. She kind of makes change. She comes back with 5 silver. Sorry, that would be, he handed you a gold coin, 9 silver. I got it right. Hands you
Didn't we
9
have
silver.
silver from... She gave us silver first.
Oh,
She
you've
gave
got
us
all
3
sorts
silver.
of denominations. It's just a matter of what Pip's carrying in your hood.
What,
But
yeah,
Pip
what
had the
Pip-
gold. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Pip had a gold
okay.
coin. He's not counting. He's just like, meh.
All right. So how many silver is that?
You would have lost the gold, gained 9 silver.
Okay. And we had 3, which I think Skink has. You might want to write that down.
Guess who's been writing none of this down?
Do you want me to write? Do you want me to record the currency? I don't mind.
Yeah, if you record the currency, that'd be awesome. But maybe after the recording, we'll like compare notes to make sure we all know how much money is in it.
Get right.
Skink and Farah are participating in fractional reserve banking. That joke is going to make me sound so much more educated in finance than I actually am. I don't really know what it meant. Don't comment. I don't care. Anyways, love you all. So, the bird delivers a gold coin.
Yes, the bird has delivered a gold coin.
And our drinks. I guess we should also, we'd also like a room. You can take that out of the change from the gold coin, or how much is a room?
Standard rooms are 3 silver a night. Our deluxe suite is 8 silver a night.
I think we look at each other like, how fancy are you feeling?
Farah is very like, I feel like practical, so she wouldn't go for
Yeah.
the fancy room. Would Skink go for the fancy room?
I think Skink already feels great that we're here. So, like, probably whatever their regular room is gonna feel like a fancy room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with one of the regular ones.
Yeah.
So I'll push 3 back to her for the night.
Standard room, excellent. We've got openings on the second floor. I can put you in immediately, no worries. They do have one stuffed bed apiece. Would you like us to bring in a second cot?
Do we care?
I think Skink has spent a lot of time on the floor and is like, of course I want a cot.
There we go.
I'll have it brought right up. Thank you very much.
And there was like no question at all that Farrah was gonna get the bed. And Skink is like, where do I sleep?
I like it.
You are welcome to enjoy our common room at all hours of the night, although after this time of night we do ask for quiet hours until the 8th tolling of the bell in the morning, so please just kind of keep it down. Tomorrow we do have a live performance coming in. A Harlequin troupe is passing through town, and we booked them here for the next several nights. They'll be arriving around dinner time. We have 3 meals a day that are available at a discounted rate while you're staying with us. Please make yourselves comfortable.
This is awesome.
This is totally awesome. Yes, I agree. This is totally awesome. We did spend 4 hours walking outside, and then we spent an hour hanging out in a general store, and then we like solved a murder case. So I think we might
We're
do
tired.
like a cursory glance and then be like, I'm gonna go drink in bed, and it's gonna be great.
Yep.
You're making a cursory glance around the room. Go ahead and roll a precision check for me.
Do you
Either
want
one of
both
you.
of us to do it?
Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
Oh, 11.
I got a 13 again.
13 again.
Yeah,
Uh,
11 plus 2. Not a
Beautiful.
crit.
So an 11 and a 13. Beautiful. Both of you clock. They're not hiding or anything, but you do see kind of across the way, sort of like on the mid step. So like on each kind of stair step down into the central fire pit, there's like staircases all throughout the room, little like half flights of stairs, because each step down, each platform is like 3 or 4 feet. It's enough to kind of like make a little wall to put tables up against and whatnot. There's like a railing on each platform. It's a nice, cool little space. Sitting across, like through the fire from where you're standing, but the fire's not like so huge that you can't see through it, is actually Brunskull. And he is talking to a younger woman. Hard to make out a lot of details at this distance, but I think you would clock pretty quickly that she is, in fact, a fiendling. He looks exasperated. He's kind of like leaning and like just putting pressure on his temple or like pinching the bridge of his nose. She is a little bit more, she's almost got kind of like a teenager affectation to her, just like you can see her kind of waving her hand dismissively, rolling her eyes, and they've got some meals in front of them and they're obviously having an ongoing conversation. What would you guys like to do?
I thought we were going to go up to our room and just do like friend talk, like, oh my god, can you believe this happened today?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Skink, I see the guy we talked to earlier. Do you want to talk to him again, or should we just go to sleep? Go up and go to bed.
Ooh. I mean, we do have one drink to finish. Does he look like he wants to be interrupted? We could absolutely interrupt him for the length of one drink and then unceremoniously leave.
I'm okay with that. We could also ask him if he wants to chat in the morning, if he's still looking for his friend.
Okay.
We could always still help with that, only if you want to, though.
Yeah.
Maria puts your glasses and shots down and puts a key on the bar across from you guys. If there's anything else I can do, I will be retiring myself in about an hour. I will have someone down here at the desk overnight. So just come on down and ask at any time and we'll be happy to accommodate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course.
And I think I take my glass of wine and my shot, scoot back, and then I look at Farrah like, okay, are we gonna go over there and talk to that guy then?
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay.
Farrah's gonna take back her shot and place that back on the counter and grab a glass of wine.
It's a good burn. Like, it's smooth, but like you can tell whatever this is packs a wallop.
So, noted, Farrah had no idea what she was talking about with the lake. She knew of the places where these libations are coming from, but she does not know enough about, like, fancy alcohol to, like, even really care. But she does note that it tastes good.
Yeah, this is like a... I don't think Farrah, if she doesn't have like a liquor and spirits palate, would know. But for our benefit, this is like a good mid to top shelf like whiskey.
Nice.
Yeah, I think Skink, from all of her time just like spent shooting the shit with people, has like picked up a bunch of knowledge about things that people like to imbibe. And it's like right up there with her like smoking stuff is like socially drinking and socially smoking. It's just like nice to have some preferences.
It's a good skill to have in a lot of situations. By the way, just behind the screen, I was trying so hard not to say scotch as I was coming up with just a drink on the fly here, because I was like, oh, I'll give them like a scotch, and then I was like, scotch implies the existence of Scotland in Rubica, and that just doesn't work. Like,
Indeed it does.
Anyways, you guys head over towards Brunskell. As you approach, they're not being sneaky or anything. I'm gonna say you approach from behind Brunskell. You get a better look at this woman that he's talking to. She's definitely younger, maybe 20s. Hard to say with fiendlings sometimes. But young woman with these kind of like onyx colored glossy goat's horns, like ram's horns, kind of curling back from her forehead, kind of cropped like neck length, shoulder length, bob cut like dark hair, reddish skin that is like crimson red skin with like just the faintest hint of texture that's a little bit more like lizard-esque than a normal like human skin complexion. So almost like a hint of scales in there, a smidge, and of course a spade-tipped tail that you can see kind of like thrashing around a little bit under her robes as she's talking, as like a subconscious equivalent to like talking with your hands type deal. And you hear her as she's approaching, like, Brunskell, he'll be back in the morning, I'm sure. You know this is what he does. It's not a big deal. I don't see why you get so bent out of sword about it. You always fight him on this, and it's... Oh, hello.
Hey! We do the, like, fancy seeing you here again. Looks like we're at the same hotel. Look at us! And then Skink, like taps her shot on the table and then shoots it. Like, isn't this great that we're all here again?
No check necessary. You see Brunskell just flabbergasted. This old man with this like wispy beard and like terrible balding monk cut. And you see the fiendling with him just look that like mischievous, like young person delight of like their authority figure is flustered and just being like, Brunskell, did you make friends?
To be fair, we did choose this place because we knew he was here, Skink.
Oh, you sought... Does that mean that you found my ward?
We did not. We just got displaced, and I figured this was as good as any place. If you're staying here. So I see you haven't found your ward. You're still looking for him?
Yes, that is, unfortunate. And you see the girl just kind of like rolls her eyes, just like, he's fine. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure. This is just... Did he drag you into this? Like, this is an ongoing thing between these two. It's not that deep, I swear. Like,
How often does it happen? Is he missing every night?
I wouldn't say every... And Brunskell just goes at least once a week.
Interesting.
Yes.
And do you
yes.
know, does he tell you where he goes? Is it for his foodie love?
He just gets really curious, and he likes to, like, whenever we come to a new town, he likes to go around and say, that's quite enough. He's
He doesn't tell us where he's going. He does tend to just get excited about new places and comes back later. And that's fine when we're in a safer type of town down south. I get nervous when we come out to these frontier places with anything could happen. Like, I don't think there's a lot of murders in Osk, probably, but like there's wild animals here, the weather is bad. And it's my job to keep an eye on him, and he doesn't make it easy, and I get in trouble, and I don't appreciate, Arilla, that you don't help me on this, and you just enable him. And she's like, he's fine, Brunskoll. It's not a big deal. I'm going to have to ask for help. Don't call in the others. It'll be fine. They've clearly been having an argument about this for some time.
I think when he said there probably aren't murders in Osk, I think Skink just did the thing where she like puts her cup in front of her face and then just like looks at Farah like,
Yeah,
should
we're
we
eyeing each
say
other.
anything?
We're like,
we're not gonna say anything. Do we need to say anything?
and you're gonna see Farrah go like, she's like has her cup and she's like,
Absolutely not. And Skink's like,
No.
you got it. It's our little secret. He can find out tomorrow when the whole town is talking about it.
You guys have that little exchange, and you see she kind of. What was that? She like gestures like with her finger and her tail at the same time. Like, what was that little thing?
Skink immediately loves being pointed at with the tail and is like, this is my kind of girl.
Noted. Add more fiendlings to campaign.
But again, Skink is like, well, Farrah told me not to say anything. I don't know if I should. Are we saying it? Are we saying it?
heavy sigh. Go ahead.
What's going on?
The whole reason we're here is because we got kicked out of our hotel because there was a murder over there.
You see, go ahead and roll a cleverness check for me.
Roll a cleverness check.
I'll say either one of you.
Okay, I'll let you.
Cleverness. Oh, I get a +3 on that. 11.
11. Brunskoll, immediate panic.
Farrah's gonna.
What? Who did you?
It was.
Did
it
you
was
happen to
not your friend. We know who it was. It was not your friend.
see? Who was it?
You know that kid that was being really loud in the bar, buying everybody drinks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know
that's-
if I'm supposed to share that information because it's technically under investigation. But to ease your worries, it was not your friend.
That's unfortunate. You see Arilla, again, does that kind of like... You're clocking, like, probably in her younger mid-20s, has a bit of, like, an immature quality to her. Like, she acts a little bit more, like, into her teenage years than you would think. But you see she's kind of doing that thing of, like... Oh, I'm out of like the pool that I'm used to being the big fish in right now, and I'm realizing like some adult shit is happening and I don't know what to do. Just kind of that really like freezing. Oh, was it what happened?
I wouldn't worry. I mean, it was pretty targeted unless your friend is helping out that elf who's hiring people.
No, I don't think he would have gone near Miss Sive.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be drawing attention to himself then if he's just checking out local cuisine, as you said.
And then Skink does what Skink thinks is comforting and says, people die all the time. Don't, you'll be fine.
Just riding off that cleverness check still. Brunskoll, weirdly better with that statement. The young woman, deeply uncomfortable. Just
Like a little shell-shocked from it.
just like, well, there's that like teenage invulnerability sense to her.
Yeah.
And then, it's like, oh, I just, some shit just happened next to me. Like, what do you, is this gonna be
And,
a thing?
And these two are acting like it's normal.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's that like first exposure to like, oh, these are people who I came in here real hot, and these are people who clearly are used to dealing with shit that I am not emotionally calibrated to handle well.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry you haven't found your friend yet. If you would like help, I mean, I think we're pretty tired. We were planning on going to sleep, but if you can't find him tomorrow, we can help you.
That would be greatly appreciated, actually.
Sorry for volunteering you, Skink. Sorry.
Skink is just like, of course we are, you know.
Just going along.
You see, Brunskill kind of looks over to the young woman who we called Aurelia. I got it right. I might have said Arilla before. It's fine. He looks over to Aurelia and says,
This is why I worry. Do you understand now? And she goes, Yes, Master Brunskill, I'm sorry. Yes,
And-
if you would help me find our young ward tomorrow, that would... If these kind of things are happening around town, I certainly would like to keep him on a shorter leash. That would be fantastic.
And then Skink just goes, I'm sure he'll be fine. And then winks and says, sweet dreams. And like starts to walk away from the table.
Yep.
Ferret, you see Aurelia is just like,
Completely.
it's this, I really, like, just that clear sense of, like, I didn't want to take the adults' warning seriously, and now they were fucking right, and that's a problem. That's a problem for me. Like, I've got to reevaluate some shit.
It's too bad Farrah's a little socially awkward. Like, she gets around. So far, she's been fine. But, like, in this situation, it's like, a little too serious for her. And she's, like, with, like, especially a younger person's emotions. So she, like, is like, yep. Guess, good night. And just walks away.
As you say that, you feel, as you turn, you feel Pip leave your hood.
Uh-huh.
And Aurelia just goes, what the? And Pip pops back on your shoulder, and he's got a little scrap of something, and is being meow. Like he stole something off her plate.
Pip, what have I told you about taking other people's food?
It's
Grab
delicious.
Grab a bigger bite next time.
Mother.
Grab a bigger bite.
You guys head up the stairs. She's got you on the second tier of rooms here at the Midwinter Sun. I almost said Midnight Sun again. The Midwinter Sun. You open the door to the standard room, which is roughly twice the size of what you were staying at over at the Long Hall. This is, again, mostly a stone room. There are several layers of different furs kind of on the stone floor to give the room a little bit of warmth. You see that set into the wall, in the space that would be kind of in the wedge between rooms, as they kind of go around the circle, there is a little flue, I guess is what you would call it. A little, like, there's no ventilation or opening on it, but there's like an iron tube running up from one of the hearths below you on the main floor that is radiating a lot of warmth into this room. So it's a very comfortable space. There is a tiny little slit of a window at the back, just with like a couple panes of glass covering it up, clearly made small to let a little bit of light in when there's light, but also a lot of times there's no light here and you don't want the heat to get out, so just it is what it is. And there's a again, fur-covered bed off to one side, a small cot with a pile of furs on it put off to the other side that has been brought in, and there is a chest in the middle of the room that is left open for you guys to secure any belongings that you want to store here while you stay, and a little basin of water sitting off on a table to one side.
This is awesome!
Skink like dives into my pile of furs on the cot, and then reaches into their pocket and just takes out the little flake that Pip had given me, had dropped into my pocket, and just starts examining it, just holding it up in my fingers and looking at what this flake is that Chester sort of died for. I mean, like, it wasn't really the flake, it was something else, but this is what happened. This is what Chester was out doing. And like,
So
this is here.
Farah wants to examine it. So, hey Skink, can I see that for a sec?
And I'm like loath to let it go for a second, but
I
pass it
to give it back.
I pass it over.
I'm going to say both of you can make either a knowledge or a willpower check. And this is one of those situations where there's no like failure state. This is a matter of like the better you do, the more you will learn in these different categories.
Okay, it's the same modifier either time. Ooh. It's 11 plus 3, 14.
14, did you want to go knowledge or willpower?
I think for Farah, since she works with magic and sorcerers are attracted to this, I would go with knowledge, because there might be some sense there. Some scientific understanding.
14 knowledge from Farah.
I picked willpower to see if I could like sense anything about it, but I only rolled a 3.
3. Okay. Well, I said that there's not, like I said, a failure state here. It's just a matter of getting extra information.
Yeah.
So with a 3 on willpower, we'll start there. You're not going to learn a lot extra, but I think as you hand it over to Farah, you feel this like etheric tug as you kind of pass it over. This like sense, you're used to, for those listening at home, characters in Rubica in particular and Relict as a whole, there's a lot of magic going around. Everyone has the potential to access magic. We use the metaphor, it's like music in the real world, where even if you're not musically inclined, such as myself, I don't know the first thing about music, but I can clap my hands on beat and like make mouth noises and potentially make something approaching music or rhythm with great effort. But some people can play many instruments, some people can sing, some people can, compose and do all sorts of other stuff. And that's kind of the same way that magic works in Relict. You may not be inclined towards it, you may not have developed that skill, but there is a little essence of like potential in everybody. You, Skink, in particular, are a mage. You practice the arts of necromancy and some other things that we haven't really gotten into on the podcast yet, but we will. And so you're a little bit more in tune with the sense of like moving etheric energy through your body and like drawing energy in from the ether into the material world and working it and creating effects. And you just feel a little bit of resonance as you hand this fleck over of like, oh, there's something kind of on that wavelength. It's almost like holding onto a magnet while another bigger magnet kind of passes by. Mm-hmm. Farah, knowledge, 14. Mm-hmm. You are an enchanter. This actually works really well. I love it when the dice kind of cooperate with us like this. You immediately clock. You kind of have that same sense as as Skink hands it over to you. You have that same sense of like, oh, there's some like etheric resonance happening here. Like this is an item that's material, but it has a deep connection to that outside, the material energy that powers magic, that powers your enchantments, powers your runes and conjuring weapons and all sorts of stuff. And you immediately get the sense that like this is a tiny, unrefined mote of this stuff. But your mind, I think, lights up on a 14 with like, oh, if I had a big chunk of this, lot of things I could do magically. This would allow me to work with effectively more mana than I have in my body. Like this is something very interesting. And I think you immediately get the sense of like, oh, this little piece right here would be of some value. I would be curious to know with the right laboratory, with the right equipment, if it could be enhanced, if it could be concentrated, if it could be arrayed, if it could be built into things, if it could be, does it get used up? Does it expend itself? Is there a cost to using it in this way? But like this is like almost like a little chunk of mana in your hand.
Okay. All right. I promised Skink that I would give it back to her, but I'm like, Oh, this is cool. I'm gonna have
And
to
it's-
get myself some of this because I have got to try a couple things.
Skink also thinks it's really pretty.
It does
That-
glow. It like emits like a
glows,
soft like
right?
blue cerulean light.
That too. But I think Farah would never betray Skink's trust when it comes to giving her trinkets back. So she's gonna give it back to Skink. We're gonna have to get a piece for me. So for sure.
And Skink is nodding like, we're gonna get a haul at some point, right?
Oh, yeah.
We'll probably need our own little expedition at some point.
I'm totally in for this.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of you, whoever, I guess it would be Skink in this case, can add to your inventory small, unrefined flake.
Okay.
One small, unrefined flake.
And we don't know really what it does yet. We just have a sense that it will do something later.
No, I think you have a sense that it is magical and
Yeah.
interesting.
And Skink is looking at it and is like, could it be a necklace? Will I make a bracelet? And is thinking like, where is this gonna go? Like, it's in my pocket for now, but is already thinking of this as like something that will be shaped and molded eventually.
Farah is recognizing it as like extra magic, essentially, like a sink of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, mana. Anyway, so she's wants a piece right now, and she's saying this to Skink. I think I could maybe use that to have access to more power, essentially, for my enchantments. Yeah, but I want to see, I don't know, it might use itself up. Like if I tap into that mana, it might zap the stone and it might not, be able to do that anymore. Or if we had a big piece of it and it just kind of is continuous, then it's possible that I could just have a nice big thing that gave me access to more power for enchantments. We could get you some for more mana for necromancy. So
Be so cool.
there's a lot we could do here, and I'm pretty. Oh, I could put runes on it. My rune enchantments would be so powerful.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe, I don't know, but I'm excited.
As you guys are having this conversation, there's a knock on your door.
I immediately hide it under my pillow.
Do you want to open the door, or do you want me to?
And I'm like, which one of us do you think is more uninviting?
I think. Oh, that's a tough call. I think I am mostly. I think Farah's mostly cordial, but doesn't actually necessarily like to interact with a lot of people. She'll do it, and she'll do it if there's a purpose to it. But right now she's real irritated because she wants to go to bed. So
Yeah. So actually, then Skink is nervous and thinks better of it, grabs the flake from under the pillow, says, "You hold this." And I give the flake to you. Because now I'm like, I don't want anyone to know that we have this. And it needs to be on one of our persons. So I go to the door and I open it the tiniest slit to see what's going on. And I just go, "What?"
As you open the door, just the tiniest slit, you see you're 2 feet and change tall. I gotta
Yeah.
think about this. You see basically a Clydesdale hoof and knee leading up to this huge horse chest up to a man's torso who is built like a Hemsworth. And just you're welcome, ladies. You crane your neck up, and you see, I think you would recognize the centaur that Cassie and Chester were traveling with, and
Yeah.
you crane up to see the centaur, this big, you haven't really interacted with him too much, but he's looking down, he's got this kind of long, shaggy, dirty, dark blonde hair, huge, wolf's fur type robe and vest, that is left completely open down the front, and just this like fucking washboard abs. Like, you're welcome. Like, it's
Yep.
just,
Yep. Right? Yeah.
just going down to this like dark chestnut and black horse body that clearly he is like stooping down to fit in the door frame to like look down to you. Is this Skink and Farah?
And then I just go, no, and I shut the door. and I look over at Farah and I go, there's a really hot centaur looking for us.
I'm actually gonna stop and say, there's a really hot centaur looking for us. That's all for this episode of the Mix Archive.
I love that.
Like, that's, you don't get a better cut to black.
No. Yes.
This is fun.
This is fun.
So fun.
I love it.